Hi, in this video I'm going to go through the game between Samuel Sevian and Fabiano Caruana from the round 6 of US Championship. And I'm going to begin from this position. The opening was Scotch 4 knights. If you want to check it out, check out the description and you will see the PGN of the game. In this position white was to move and he played the move knight a4. I think that the idea behind this is to protect his pawn structure because black had an option of capturing on c3 on the next move and slightly ruining his pawn structure. And I think that he wanted to preserve this pawn structure, and anyways he wanted to capture a dark square bishop by playing maybe c3 and b4, taking on b6 and then continuing the attack on the king side. Also, black's structure on the king side is quite exposed with g4, g5 and h6 pawns, and we can expect that white will just at one point push f4, trying to break these pawns on the king side, which mean the protection for black's king. And here Fabiano played bishop a5. He wanted to put his bishop to a better square, and also now I get why he played knight a4. Maybe he was afraid of some bishop c5, which would improve his bishop and also disable f4. So black wants to get to b6 and maybe to fix his pawn structure once white takes in b6. Here I think it was possible to capture on e4. Now white doesn't have a move like rook e1 because the bishop is protecting e1. And in case of c3, and now a big mistake would be bishop a5, because after rook e1, now the knight is under attack, and if you defend it, let's say, by playing f5, then f3 just wins a piece because the knight and queen are pinned. And now the knight cannot move and black is simply losing a piece. So in this case, after c3, black would have to capture on g3. Now white has a nice in-between move, which is rook e1, activating a rook with tempo, queen f6, and now white can also take on g3 here. But I think it's not that dangerous for black because he just goes to a5 and to b6 and he remains with an extra pawn. Instead, he can take on b4. And after black goes back to f5, now white goes to f3. Now a big threat is g4, which would mean that the knight is lost because the queen is undefended. Black would play rook b8, and now if white goes g4, then the b4 pawn hangs, and if the knight moves, then rook f4 would save a piece, actually. So after a3 to defend the b4 pawn, king g7 to defend the queen. So now g4 doesn't make any sense, because after knight d4, this exchange is something that suits black because he's a pawn up and he wishes to exchange. But now the c6 pawn is hanging, so white can take on c6, but now black's pieces get more active, and after knight d4, black has a very good position. Knight on d4 is a beast. And imagine if white gets greedy and collects even on c7, then the bishop gets on the long diagonal and g2 might become a big target, so this position is quite dangerous for white. And I think that knight e4 in general was a good move to play in this position. Also, I want to mention that after Queen E2 here, which seems like it's winning a piece, you can just go Rook E8 or even D5, because after F3 you can play Bishop C5. And after capture, if he goes to H1, then you take on G3 and exchange queens, and you're left with a pawn up. Also, after F3, Bishop C5. If White captures, then Queen takes C5, and after King H1, you can capture on G3, and again, Black is left with a pawn up, and White doesn't have sufficient compensation, even though the pawns are running too much. But I think that you cannot create anything serious on the king side. Instead, he played Bishop A5. And now, after C3, it's not possible to capture on E4 anymore, because after Rook E1, like I said before, next move is going to be F3, if Black defends the knight. So he goes back to B6, and he hopes to fix his pawn structure, to somehow straighten his pawn structure, in case White takes on B6. He did take on B6, AB, and now Queen E2. White is slowly preparing this F4 advance, Bishop G4, and now Queen E3, targeting G5, and in case he pushes F4, then this G5 would be attacked too many times. Black goes Knight H5, and now after F4, Black makes a mistake and he plays D5. In this position, it was better to just play Bishop D7 to go back. And ideas in this position might be something like Rook A8 or Rook A5 to control the 5th rank, to defend from the queen side. But instead he plays D5 here, and now after FG, if you take with the queen here, I think that just simply takes, and Bishop C7 is winning a pawn, so it's not something that you really want to do. He took on G3 instead. Queen G3 and Queen G5. And now there's a small trick here. If you take on C7, then Queen E3 check loses the bishop. To avoid that, White plays H4. And after Queen G7, then he takes on C7. Black tries to create something in the center. He plays D4. And now after C4, Rook C8. And now White is doing the smart thing. He goes to D6. Because if he takes on B6, then after Rook AB8, the B2 pawn is hanging, and also, let's say he plays Queen C5, I take on B2, and now G2 is under attack. Bishop H3 is coming next, and G2 is not feeling really safe. So he goes back to D6. He doesn't want to open up B file, which would strengthen Black's attack. C5, trying to protect D4. And now Rook F6, trying to double on the F file and also attacking the H6 pawn. But Black goes with Bishop H3, attacking on G2. And now you cannot move your queen to H2 because the rook is hanging. So Rook F2, he went back, King H8, and now he takes on B6. Rook G8, attacking 3 times on G2. And now E5 is coming. And now the point is, if Bishop G2 on the board. Then I think Queen F6. Or maybe simply Bishop G6. No, it's not that. Bishop G2. Oh, if Bishop G2, then Rook F7. Yes. Rook F7, and if he takes, then Queen takes H6. Checkmate. That's a nice one. So he goes Rook A E8. Rook E1 defending the pawn, and now you cannot capture on E5 because this would lead to a checkmate on H6. So he goes F5. He tries to push his pawn as far as possible and to put pressure on G2, and also to deflect this rook from defending G2. He went Bishop F1 because he needed to overprotect the G2 pawn. Black just goes anyways F4, take on C5, and now F3. In case of rook takes F3, like I said, Black is able to take on G2, and there's nothing to do because now the G file is open and this battery is deadly now. So White plays E6, and now Fg2 and Bishop D3, and you can see now that this G2 pawn is a very good shield for White's king. Only in case of eliminating this rook from E1, it can get dangerous for the White king. But so far it's not so dangerous. And also Black has to worry about his king. His king, if the queen is not on this diagonal, is not so safe. Bishop E6, and now White goes for the exchange of queens, which is a mistake in this position. It was better to play rook Fe2, attacking the bishop, and now if you move the bishop, then mass exchanges happen. If bishop E8, then queen E5, and now it's a better version of the game. And also, if rook takes E8, takes, and something like queen D5 should happen, and G2 is doomed. So the only chance to complicate the game in this position is for Black to play rook EF8, giving up the bishop, but trying to open up the position by giving up the rook. But this is only a couple of checks. It's nothing dangerous for Black. If he goes rook G2 here, paradoxically, White just runs towards the center and doesn't get harmed. In case of rook G5, you can cover with the rook, and it's nothing serious. Queen G5, King D6, and eventually King escapes these checks. Instead, in the game, Sevian played Queen E5, and they exchanged, and Black played Bishop H3, trying to protect his G2 pawn. White goes Rook E4, and now Black takes on E4. Instead, it was better to play Rook Gf8, and Black would fight a lot with this continuation. Even though White has three passed pawns on the queen side, it's not easy to get rid of this G2 pawn, which means that rooks are always on some kind of watch. They need to be on the first rank and protect White's king. Let me show you one variation which shows how difficult it is to get out of this some sort of pin. If white captures on f8, black captures, he goes back to e1 because rook f1 is a big threat right now. So rook e1 has to be played. Rook f3. And now white would have to defend, because in case of bishop e2, let's say, then rook e3 would be a very strong move. So rook d1, rook e3, and now let's say white wants to push a4, bishop g4, rook d2, because you need to defend the bishop, and now bishop f3. Putting the bishop on the long diagonal so it can control somehow these pawns, and also liberating the h3 square for the rook in the future. And now bishop c6. And now a big threat is rook h3, because the white king cannot capture, because g1 would be a promotion. And in case of rook d1, it's possible for black to just repeat moves with bishop f3, rook d2, bishop c4. And if you get greedy and play a5, like I said, black can play rook h3, and after he takes, promotion will happen and black wins. And if king goes to g1, then rook h1 with the same outcome. So black would be able to just repeat moves with bishop f3 and back and forth. Instead, black took on e4, and after bishop e4, d3 was played, bishop d3, and now rook e8, trying to create a threat with rook e1. But now white just blocks this threat with bishop e2, king g7, and now a4 comes. Rook e3, and now the a pawn just marches. Rook e5, b4, and after rook e3, white played rook f3, and he's basically forcing the exchange of bishops or rooks, which means that it's hopeless, and this is the position in which Fabiano Caruana resigned. And this is his second loss in a row, which is not a good thing to happen for anyone. I hope you enjoyed this, and have a good day. Bye.